The boy wouldn't stop crying. Not even when the owner whispered, "That's his son." Everyone froze. The waiters, the guests, even the bodyguards wouldn't step in, because when Germano Secchi's child cries, the city holds its breath. But then she stood up, walked across the room to the boy. Not knowing the man she was about to defy, ran the most feared crime family in New York. Marissa Howell didn't see a mafia prince. She saw a scared child, and when she whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart," it broke something open. In him, in his father, and in a world where softness could get you killed. What followed wasn't gratitude. It was obsession. It was protection. It was blood. And if you think a moment of kindness can't rewrite your entire life, wait until you hear what he said after she stood up. Before we dive in, where are you watching from, and what kind of story do you want to see next? Drop it in the comments. And if stories like this pull you in and don't let go, go ahead, hit subscribe. I have another powerful one coming tomorrow. Now, let's get into the story. The crystal chandeliers of Vittorio's cast diamond patterns across white tablecloths. Soft violin music drifted through the air, mingling with the clink of silverware and hushed conversations of New York's elite. Women in designer gowns leaned toward men in tailored suits, their laughter polished and rehearsed. Then it happened. A sound that didn't belong. A child's sob, raw, desperate, heart-wrenching, cut through the carefully curated atmosphere like a knife through silk. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Wine glasses paused halfway to lips. Every head turned toward the corner booth, the one tucked behind velvet curtains where shadows pooled thick and dangerous. The booth no one dared approach. The crying grew louder. Not a tantrum. Not manipulation. This was grief. Pure, unfiltered, 3-year-old heartbreak. A waiter froze near the kitchen doors, his tray trembling in his hands. Another ducked behind the bar. Even Giovanni, the restaurant owner who'd faced down health inspectors and food critics without flinching, took 3 steps backward, because they all knew who sat in that booth. Germano Secchi, underground king, mafia legend, the man whose name was whispered in back rooms and courtrooms, in police precincts and penthouse apartments. The man who owned half the city and controlled the other half. And his son was breaking apart. 2 bodyguards flanked the booth entrance, their faces carved from stone. They didn't move, didn't blink, but their hands hovered near concealed weapons, ready for anything except this, a toddler's inconsolable tears. Inside the booth, Germano sat frozen, his $6,000 suit perfectly pressed, his expression unreadable. But his hands, those hands that had signed death warrants and broken bones, trembled slightly as they reached toward the small boy beside him. Valle Secchi pressed his face into the leather seat, his little body shaking with sobs. His father's touch made him cry harder. "Valle, please." Germano's voice was low, controlled, but something cracked beneath it. "What do you need? Tell Papa what you need." The boy only cried louder. Other diners pretended not to notice. They studied their menus with sudden intensity. They discussed wine pairings in voices slightly too loud. But the tension was suffocating. Everyone felt it. This wasn't just a child having a bad night. This was something breaking. Something essential. Valle's cries echoed off marble floors and vaulted ceilings, filling every corner of the restaurant with a sound that money couldn't silence and power couldn't control. Germano Secchi, the man who'd brought grown men to their knees, who'd built an empire on fear and loyalty, sat helpless beside his 3-year-old son. And nobody moved. Not the waiters hovering near the kitchen. Not the bodyguards trained to handle any threat. Not the owner wringing his hands behind the bar. They all knew the same truth. You didn't approach Germano Secchi uninvited. You didn't cross those invisible lines. You valued your life more than that. So they watched, and waited, and hoped the crying would stop. It didn't. Valle's sobs grew more desperate, more broken, until even the violinist faltered, his bow dragging across strings in a discordant note. Marissa Howell's feet were killing her. She'd been on them for 14 hours, 6 at the diner in Queens, now 8 at Vittorio's. Her lower back screamed. Her calves cramped. The smile she painted on for customers felt like it might crack her face in half. But rent was due in 3 days, and she was still $200 short. So she smiled, and she served, and she pretended the exhaustion wasn't crushing her. Table 7 needs more bread, Giovanni hissed as he passed her in the kitchen. And for God's sake, stay away from the corner booth. Marissa nodded, loading her tray with warm focaccia. She'd heard the whispers. Everyone had. Germano Secchi is here. Don't make eye contact. Don't go near him. She'd worked at Vittorio's for 3 months and had seen him twice before. Both times, the entire staff had moved like mice around a sleeping cat, silent, careful, invisible. That's how you survived in his world. Marissa delivered the bread to table 7, refilled water glasses at table 12, and was heading back to the kitchen when she heard it. The crying. It stopped her mid-step. She'd heard children cry before, plenty of times. She'd worked at a daycare before it closed. She'd babysat her way through high school. But this sound, this was different. This was a child who'd lost something essential. Marissa's chest tightened. Her exhaustion suddenly didn't matter. The rent didn't matter. Even the warnings didn't matter. She turned toward the corner booth. Marissa, no. Giovanni grabbed her elbow. His face had gone pale. Don't. I'm serious. Whatever you're thinking, don't. She looked at him. Really looked. Giovanni was scared. Not nervous. Not uncomfortable. Terrified. That's a child, she said quietly. That's Secchi's child. Giovanni's grip tightened. You go over there, you might not come back. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being realistic. The crying grew louder. More desperate. Marissa gently pulled her arm free. He's 3 years old, she said. And he's hurting. Marissa. But she was already walking. Past the bar where 2 waiters watched with wide eyes. Past the tables where wealthy diners pretended not to notice. Past the invisible line everyone knew not to cross. Straight toward the corner booth. The bodyguards saw her coming. Their bodies tensed. Hands moved inside jackets. Miss, you need to step back. The larger one's voice was flat, emotionless. Now. Marissa didn't stop. I just want to help. Last warning. She could see the booth now. See the small boy pressed against the leather seat, his face red and tear-streaked. See the man beside him, impeccably dressed, perfectly still, watching his son fall apart. And in that moment, Marissa didn't see a mafia boss. She saw a father who had no idea what to do. Please, she said to the bodyguards. Just let me try. The larger one stepped forward, blocking her path completely. But then a voice cut through the tension. Let her through. Germano Secchi's words were quiet, but they carried the weight of absolute authority. The bodyguards exchanged glances, hesitated, then stepped aside. Marissa's heart hammered against her ribs as she approached the booth. Every survival instinct screamed at her to turn around. Run. Apologize and disappear. But Valley's sobs pulled her forward. She knelt beside the booth, eye level with the little boy. Hi, sweetheart, she said softly. My name's Marissa. Can you tell me what's wrong? Valle didn't answer. Just cried harder. Germano's voice was tight. He's been like this for 20 minutes. I've tried everything. Marissa studied the child. The way he clutched at his chest. The way his eyes searched the restaurant, over and over. And then she understood. He just needs a mom, she whispered. The words hung in the air. Germano Secchi went completely still. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Germano Secchi didn't flinch, didn't blink. But something shifted in his eyes, something dark and sharp and dangerous. Most people didn't know what he looked like. They knew the name. They knew the stories. But Germano stayed in shadows, moved through back channels, existed as more myth than man. Until you saw him up close. Then you understood why entire organizations fell silent when he entered a room. He was 42 but looked ageless. The kind of man who could be 35 or 50 depending on the light. His black hair was touched with silver at the temples, cut with precision. His face was all hard angles and sharp lines, handsome in a way that made you nervous. But it was his eyes that truly unsettled people. Dark, calculating, ancient. The eyes of a man who'd seen things that would break most people and had done things that would damn most souls. He'd built his empire at 23 when his father was murdered in a warehouse in Brooklyn. Within 6 months, he'd eliminated every man responsible. Within 2 years, he controlled everything from the docks to the Diamond District. Within 5, his name was spoken in the same breath as legends. Germano Secchi didn't just run the Mafia. He was the Mafia. Politicians took his calls. Judges reconsidered their rulings. Police captains looked the other way. Not because they wanted to, but because they valued their family's safety. He owned nightclubs and construction companies, art galleries and shipping firms. All legitimate on paper. All laundering money that flowed through the city like blood through veins. He'd killed 17 men personally. Ordered the deaths of 43 others. Destroyed families, ended careers, crushed anyone who threatened his empire. But he'd done it all with a code. No innocents. No children. No unnecessary collateral damage. Until 3 years ago, when his wife Sophia was gunned down in their own driveway. Caught in crossfire meant for him. She'd been holding Valle at the time. The boy survived without a scratch. Sophia died before the ambulance arrived. Germano hunted down every man involved. It took 4 months. When he was finished, an entire rival family had been erased from existence. Not just the shooters. Everyone. Their associates, their partners, their protectors. It was the most brutal purge New York had seen in 20 years. And then Germano Secchi did something no one expected. He became a full-time father. He didn't remarry. Didn't hire a nanny. He raised Valle himself, between business meetings and territorial disputes, between negotiations and eliminations. He read bedtime stories with blood still drying under his fingernails. He made breakfast with the same hands that broke bones. But something was broken in Valle that Germano couldn't fix. The boy rarely spoke, barely ate, and every few weeks, he'd have these episodes, moments where grief would crash over him like a wave, leaving him gasping and inconsolable. 17 specialists had tried to help. 17 had failed. Now this waitress, this tired, broke nobody, knelt beside his booth and spoke the truth Germano had been denying for 3 years. His son needed what he couldn't give. Valle needed a mother. Germano's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists on the table. Around them, the entire restaurant held its breath. The bodyguards watched their boss carefully, ready to act on the slightest signal. Marissa stayed kneeling, her hand hovering near Valle's small shoulder, but not quite touching. Waiting. Patient. "You don't know what you're talking about," Germano said quietly. His voice was silk over steel. "You don't know anything about us." "You're right," Marissa said, meeting his eyes without flinching. "But I know grief when I see it. And I know a little boy who's looking for something he lost." Valle's sobs had quieted slightly, as if he was listening. Germano leaned forward slowly. "You have 10 seconds to walk away. After that, I can't guarantee your safety." It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. The temperature in the booth dropped 10 degrees. What would you do in Marissa's position? Walk away or stay? Tell us in the comments. Marissa's heart hammered against her ribs. Every rational part of her brain screamed to stand up, apologize, and disappear into the kitchen. But she looked at Valle, his small face blotchy and tear-streaked, his little hands clutching at nothing, and she couldn't move. "I'm not trying to overstep," she said softly, keeping her eyes on the child. "But may I try something?" Germano didn't answer. The silence stretched so long Marissa thought she might pass out from the tension. Then, barely audible, 1 minute. Marissa turned her full attention to Valle. She didn't reach for him, didn't crowd him, just settled onto her knees and began humming softly. It wasn't a lullaby. It was an old song her grandmother used to sing. Something about starlight and safe harbors and coming home. Valle's sobs hitched, stuttered. Marissa kept humming, her voice low and gentle, weaving through the restaurant's silence like a thread of light. The boy's breathing began to slow. His hands unclenched slightly. She added words now, barely above a whisper. "When the night is dark and long, I will keep you safe and warm, till the morning brings you home." Valle's head turned. Just a fraction. His tear-filled eyes found hers. Marissa smiled, not the fake waitress smile, but something real and sad and understanding. "It's okay to miss her," she whispered. "It's okay to cry. But you're not alone, sweetheart. You're not alone." Valle's face crumpled, but differently this time. The desperate panic was fading, replaced by something softer. Pure grief, yes, but grief that could be held instead of drowned in. He reached for her. Marissa glanced at Germano, asking permission. The Mafia boss sat frozen, his expression unreadable. But after 3 endless seconds, he gave the smallest nod. Marissa opened her arms. Valle crashed into them like a ship finding harbor. He buried his face in her shoulder and cried, deep, shuddering sobs that shook his whole body. But his hands gripped her uniform, holding on, anchoring himself. The entire restaurant seemed to stop breathing. The bodyguards exchanged shocked glances. Giovanni stood behind the bar with his mouth open. Even the violinist had completely stopped playing. Marissa wrapped her arms around the little boy and rocked him gently, still humming that old song. Her own eyes stung with tears, but she blinked them back. "That's it," she murmured. "Let it out. I've got you." Valle's crying gradually softened, slowed. His breathing evened out against her shoulder. 2 minutes passed. Then 5. By minute 7, Valle's sobs had faded to occasional hiccups. His grip on her uniform loosened slightly, though he didn't let go. Marissa kept rocking, kept humming, kept holding this child who wasn't hers but felt, in that moment, like he could be. Finally, Valle pulled back just enough to look at her face. His eyes were red and swollen, but calmer. Present. "Hi there," Marissa said softly, brushing sweaty hair from his forehead. "Feeling a little better?" Valle nodded. His voice was hoarse and small. "You smell like cookies." Marissa laughed, a real laugh that surprised even her. "I work at a diner in the morning. The smell sticks. I like cookies." "Me too, buddy. Me too." She glanced at Germano. The man hadn't moved, but his eyes were locked on his son with an intensity that made the air feel charged. "He'll be okay now," Marissa said quietly. "Sometimes kids just need to know someone sees their pain. That's all." She carefully helped Valle back onto the booth seat. The boy immediately reached for his father, and Germano pulled him close, one arm around his son's shoulders, protective and fierce. Valle nestled against his father's side, exhausted but peaceful. Marissa started to stand. "Wait." Germano's voice stopped her. She froze, suddenly remembering exactly where she was and who she was dealing with. Germano studied her face, really studied it, like he was memorizing every detail. His expression remained unreadable, but something had shifted in those dark eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. "Marissa. Marissa Howell. Full-time waitress? 2 jobs. Diner in Queens here at night. Family?" "No, sir. Just me." Germano was silent for a long moment. Valle had closed his eyes, his breathing deep and even against his father's chest. Finally, Germano reached into his jacket. Every bodyguard tensed. But he pulled out a business card, plain black, silver lettering, just a phone number. "Be at this address tomorrow. 2 p.m. He handed her the card. "We need to talk." Marissa took it with trembling fingers. "About what?" Germano looked down at his sleeping son. When he looked back up, something almost human flickered across his face. "About a job," he said quietly. "One that pays better than this." Marissa stood in her tiny studio apartment at 2 in the morning, staring at the black business card like it might explode. Just a phone number. No name. No company. Nothing else. She should throw it away. Forget the whole thing happened. Go back to her double shifts and late rent payments and the safe, predictable struggle of her normal life. But she kept seeing Valle's face. Those devastated eyes. The way he'd clung to her like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting. She wasn't anyone special. Wasn't a child psychologist or trauma specialist. She'd taken exactly 3 psychology courses at community college before her money ran out. She worked 2 dead-end jobs and could barely afford groceries. Yet somehow, she'd done what 17 professionals couldn't. She'd seen Valle's pain, really seen it, and met it where it was. Because Marissa knew what it felt like to lose everything. She'd been 8 when her parents died in a car accident. Bounced through foster homes until she aged out at 18. No family. No safety net. No one to call when the world got too heavy. She understood grief. Understood the desperate, clawing need for someone to just see you drowning and reach out a hand. That's all Valle had needed. Not therapy techniques or behavioral strategies. Just someone who recognized his pain and didn't try to fix it or ignore it or manage it. Someone who let him feel it while holding him through it. 60 seconds. That's all it had taken. 60 seconds to kneel beside a crying child and offer what every human being needs. To be seen, to be heard, to not be alone. But those 60 seconds had caught the attention of the most dangerous man in New York. Marissa set the card on her nightstand and tried to sleep. She couldn't. At 1:45 p.m. the next day, Marissa stood outside a brownstone in the Upper East Side that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. She'd changed outfits 4 times, settled on simple black pants and a clean white blouse, professional but not trying too hard. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The door opened before she could knock. A woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and kind eyes smiled at her. "Miss Howell, Mr. Secchi is expecting you. Follow me, please." The interior was elegant but not ostentatious. Hardwood floors, tasteful artwork, natural light streaming through tall windows. It felt like a home, not a showpiece. Nothing like what Marissa had expected from a Mafia boss's residence. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Chun, the housekeeper, led her to a study on the 2nd floor. She knocked twice, then opened the door. "Miss Howell, sir." Germano sat behind a mahogany desk, reading something on his tablet. He looked different in daylight, still intimidating, but somehow more human. He wore a black sweater instead of a suit. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked like a father who'd been up all night. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Marissa sat, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. Germano studied her for a long moment. "Valle slept through the night. First time in 6 weeks. That's good. He asked about you this morning. The cookie lady, he called you." Something almost resembling a smile tugged at Germano's mouth. "He wanted to know if you were coming back." Marissa's chest tightened. "He's a sweet kid. He's a traumatized kid." Germano set down his tablet. "His mother died in his arms 3 years ago. Since then, I've hired 17 specialists. Child psychologists, trauma therapists, behavioral experts. They gave me strategies, techniques, medications. None of it worked." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "Then you show up. A waitress with no credentials, no training, no expertise. And in 60 seconds, you do what they couldn't do in 3 years. His voice dropped. "How?" Marissa swallowed hard. I recognized what he was feeling. I've been there. Been where? Alone. Grieving. Looking for someone to tell me it was okay to hurt. Germano was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "You lost your parents." It wasn't a question. He'd researched her. Of course he had. "When I was 8, Marissa confirmed. "Foster care after that." "Have you ever connected with someone through shared pain? Drop a comment below." Germano nodded slowly. "Valle needs someone who understands. Not someone who treats him like a problem to solve. With respect, Mr. Secchi, that sounds like you need a therapist, not a waitress." "I need," Germano said carefully, "someone my son trusts. Someone who can be here when the darkness comes. Someone who sees him as a child first, not a case study." Marissa's heart started racing. "What exactly are you offering?" "A job. 3 days a week. You'd spend time with Valle. Play with him. Talk to him. Just be there. You want me to be his nanny? I want you to be whatever he needs you to be." Marissa stared at Germano, trying to process what he was asking. "Mr. Secchi, I'm not qualified. You're the only person who's reached him in 3 years. That's all the qualification I need." Germano opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. 3 days a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You'd spend time with Valle here at the house. No formal curriculum. No structured therapy. Just connection. He slid the folder across the desk. Marissa opened it. Her eyes went wide. That's $15,000 a month. That's what you're worth to my son." Marissa's hands trembled as she stared at the number. That was more than she made in 4 months at both her jobs combined. That was rent paid on time, groceries without checking prices, maybe even saving for the future. That was life-changing money. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "You don't know me. I could be anyone. I know enough." Germano tapped his tablet. Marissa Jane Howell, 26 years old. Orphaned at 8. Foster care until 18. 2 years at Queens Community College before financial aid ran out. No criminal record. No debt beyond student loans. Works 70-hour weeks and still struggles to make rent. The The clinical recitation of her life should have felt invasive. Instead, it just made her tired. You've worked with children before, Germano continued. Daycare center in Astoria, closed due to funding. You were the only staff member the kids asked about after it shut down. You've babysat for 12 different families in the past 5 years. Every single one requested you back. You did a background check overnight? I did a background check in 3 hours. Germano's expression didn't change. I don't let strangers near my son. Fair enough. Marissa looked at the contract again. The money was staggering, life-altering, but something felt wrong. Mr. Secchi, I appreciate this, but name your price. The words cut through her hesitation like a blade. Marissa looked up. Excuse me? The offer isn't enough. I understand. Germano's face remained neutral, but something intense burned in his eyes. So name your price. Whatever you want. 20,000? 30. I'll pay it. It's not about the money. Everything is about money. Not this. Marissa closed the folder and pushed it back across the desk. You can't buy what Valle needs. You can't purchase healing or connection or trust. It doesn't work that way. Germano's jaw tightened. For the first time, he looked genuinely thrown off balance. Then what do you want? Marissa took a breath. I want to know what I'm walking into. Not the pretty version. The truth. The truth, Germano repeated slowly. You're not just a concerned father looking for childcare. You're Germano Secchi. I may be broke, Mr. Secchi, but I'm not stupid. I've heard the rumors. I've seen how people react to your name. She leaned forward, meeting his dangerous gaze head-on. So before I agree to anything, I need to know, what kind of danger would I be in? What would I be exposing myself to? Because I'll help Valle. I want to help him, but I won't walk blindly into something that could get me killed. The silence that followed was suffocating. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Germano's expression went completely blank, the mask of a man who'd learned to hide everything. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and lethal. You're asking me to confess to crimes. I'm asking you to be honest. If you want me to trust you with your son's well-being, you need to trust me with the truth. Another long silence. Then Germano did something Marissa didn't expect. He laughed. Not loud, just a short, rough sound that held no humor. You have more courage than sense, Miss Howell. Probably. Germano stood and walked to the window overlooking the street. He was quiet for so long Marissa thought he might ask her to leave. Then, yes. There's danger. My enemies would use anyone close to me or Valle as leverage. You'd need security training. You'd need to follow strict protocols. And there would be times when you'd see or hear things that would frighten you. He turned to face her. But I swear on my son's life, you would be protected. My entire organization would ensure your safety. No one would touch you. Marissa's heart pounded. This was insane. She should walk out right now. But Valle's face flashed through her mind. Those broken, desperate eyes. I need time to think, she said. You have 24 hours. Germano walked back to his desk and pulled out another card. This one with an address. Come here tomorrow. Same time. Bring your answer. Marissa took the card and stood on shaking legs. As she reached the door, Germano's voice stopped her. Miss Howell, you asked if you'd be in danger. He paused. The answer is yes. But not from me. Never from me. Marissa came back the next day. She told herself it was for Valle. For that lost little boy who needed someone to see him. She told herself the money didn't matter. That this was about helping a child heal. But deep down, she knew she was also running towards something. A life that felt bigger than scraping by, paycheck to paycheck, invisible and forgotten. The first week was awkward. Valle watched her from behind his father's legs, suspicious and quiet. He didn't cry, but he didn't engage either. Just observed with those old, sad eyes. Marissa didn't push. She sat on the floor of the playroom and built block towers. Read picture books out loud to herself. Hummed that old song while coloring. On day 4, Valle sat down 3 feet away from her. On day 6, he handed her a crayon. By week 2, he was laughing. Real laughter, bright and surprised, like he'd forgotten he knew how. They played hide and seek through the brownstones' endless rooms. They made up stories about the toys. They had tea parties where Valle insisted Marissa use a British accent, even though hers was terrible. and slowly, carefully, he started talking about his mother. "Mama liked butterflies," he said one afternoon, coloring a picture. "Yellow ones." "That's beautiful," Marissa said softly. "What else did she like?" "Songs. She sang lots of songs." Valle paused, his crayon hovering over the paper. "Do you know any songs?" So Marissa sang. Old songs, silly songs, songs her grandmother had taught her. Valle would curl up beside her and listen, his small hand resting on her arm like an anchor. The darkness still came sometimes. The grief would crash over him without warning, and he'd shake and cry and struggle to breathe. But now Marissa was there to hold him through it. "It's okay," she'd whisper, rocking him gently. "I've got you. You're safe." And Valle believed her. Germano watched it all happen. He'd installed himself in his home office more than usual, door cracked open, listening to the sounds of his son playing. Really playing. Not the quiet, careful movements of a traumatized child going through motions. Genuine joy. He'd catch glimpses of them through doorways, Marissa on her hands and knees pretending to be a dragon, while Valle shrieked with laughter. Marissa reading with Valle tucked against her side, both of them lost in the story. Marissa braiding flowers into Valle's hair because he'd asked, and she never said no to him. Germano had hired her to help his son heal. He hadn't expected to be unable to look away from her. It started innocently enough. He'd bring them lunch, stay for a few minutes to check on Valle. Those few minutes stretched to 20, then 40. He found himself scheduling meetings around Marissa's days, making excuses to work from home. He told himself it was about Valle, about monitoring the situation. But that was a lie. He watched the way Marissa moved through his home like she belonged there. The way she hummed while tidying up toys, unconscious and natural. The way she'd pull her hair back when she was concentrating, revealing the elegant line of her neck. The way she looked at Valle, with such fierce, protective tenderness it made Germano's chest ache. He'd buried his heart 3 years ago with Sofia. Locked it away and thrown away the key because feeling anything was too dangerous, too painful. But Marissa was picking that lock without even trying. "Papa, look." Valle ran into the office one Thursday afternoon, holding up a painting. "Marissa and I made a rainbow." Germano studied the chaotic swirl of colors. "It's beautiful, mio figlio. Can we hang it up? Wherever you want." Valle beamed and ran back out. Germano heard Marissa's laugh from the playroom. Warm and genuine and completely unguarded. Something in his chest cracked. He stood and walked to the playroom door. Marissa was on the floor, covered in paint, helping Valle add more colors to another canvas. She looked up and smiled. "Sorry we made a mess. I'll clean it up." "Don't." Germano's voice came out rougher than intended. "Don't apologize. This is what the house should sound like." Their eyes met. Held. Marissa's smile softened into something else. Something that made Germano's carefully controlled world tilt sideways. He should walk away. Fire her before this became complicated. But Valle laughed again, and Marissa's whole face lit up, and Germano realized with stunning clarity that he was already lost. Have you ever fallen for someone you knew you shouldn't? Comment below. The lines blurred faster after that. Germano started joining their activities. Tea parties where he sat in a tiny chair and pretended to sip from a plastic cup. Story time where Valle insisted his father do the monster voice. Dinners that stretched long into the evening because leaving the table meant ending the moment. Marissa fit into their broken family like she'd always been there. And Germano couldn't remember the last time his house felt like a home. 3 weeks and 4 days after Marissa started, everything shattered. It was a Saturday. Valle's favorite day because Marissa came early and stayed for dinner. They'd spent the afternoon in Central Park, Valle chasing pigeons while Marissa and Germano sat on a bench watching. Not touching. Not saying anything particularly meaningful. But something had shifted between them. An awareness that hummed in the space when they stood too close. They came home around 6. Mrs. Chen had left dinner in the oven, lasagna, Valle's favorite. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes and safety. Valle ran upstairs to wash his hands. Marissa started setting the table. Germano poured wine for 2, water for Valle. Domestic. Normal. Perfect. That should have been his first warning. Nothing in Germano's world stayed perfect for long. The security system didn't beep when the back door opened. The cameras didn't catch the 5 men who'd spent 3 weeks learning the routes, studying the patterns, finding the exactly 3-minute window when the guards changed shifts. Professional, patient, vengeful. The Moretti family had been planning this for 6 months. Ever since Germano had shut down their trafficking operation and sent their patriarch to prison, where he died mysteriously within a week. Officially ruled a heart attack. Everyone knew better. The Morettis wanted blood. They wanted Germano to suffer the way they'd suffered. They wanted his son. Marissa was putting forks on the table when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong. A soft scrape of metal, a breath held too long. She looked up. 5 men in black tactical gear poured into the dining room like smoke. Masked, armed, moving with military precision. Marissa's scream caught in her throat. The largest one moved toward her. "Don't make a sound." But Germano had already heard. Already moved. He came around the corner from the kitchen, gun in hand before Marissa could blink. He fired twice. 2 men dropped. But 3 remained, and they'd trained for this. They fanned out, using the furniture as cover, forcing Germano to choose between shooting and protecting. "Valle." Germano's voice cracked with command. "Lock your door. Now." Upstairs, a door slammed. A lock clicked. Thank God. But the largest attacker was already moving toward the stairs. Get the kid. That's the mission. Marissa didn't think. Didn't process. Just acted. She grabbed a chair and swung it with everything she had. It connected with the man's knee. He went down with a curse, his gun clattering across the floor. Another gunshot. Another body falling. But the 5th man had circled behind Germano, getting between him and the stairs. Getting between him and Valle. "Drop it, Secchi," the man said, his gun trained on Germano's head. "Or I paint these walls with you." Germano froze. His weapon didn't waver, but his eyes flicked to the stairs. Calculating. Planning. Not fast enough. The man Marissa had hit was back on his feet, limping but functional. He grabbed her from behind, one arm crushing across her throat, the other pressing a knife to her ribs. "Your move, boss," he hissed in her ear. Marissa's world narrowed to that blade pressing into her side. To Germano's face, empty and cold and absolutely lethal. To Valle's voice from upstairs, small and terrified. "Papa." The man with the knife started dragging Marissa toward the stairs. "Let's go get the kid," he said. Nice and easy. Marissa felt the knife bite into her skin. Warm blood trickled down her side. From upstairs, "Marissa? Papa." And Marissa realized with crystal clarity. They were going to use her to get to Valle. They'd make her call him down. Make him open the door. They'd kill that beautiful little boy while making his father watch. The knife pressed deeper. Valle's bedroom door started to open. And Marissa made a choice. She threw her head back as hard as she could, connecting with her captor's nose. Felt it crunch. His grip loosened for just a second. 1 second was enough. Marissa tore free and ran, not away from danger but toward it. Straight toward the stairs. Toward Valle's door. Toward the man with the gun aimed at Germano. She heard Germano shout her name. Heard gunfire explode behind her. She reached the stairs just as Valle's door opened fully. The little boy stood there in his favorite dinosaur pajamas, eyes wide with terror. Behind him, the window. The fire escape. A chance. The gunman turned toward Valle. And Marissa threw herself between them. The bullet hit her chest with the force of a freight train. Marissa had never been shot before. Movies made it look dramatic. People flying backward, clutching their chests, delivering final words with clarity and grace. The reality was different. The impact knocked every molecule of air from her lungs. Her legs gave out instantly. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process anything except the spreading fire across her chest and the metallic taste flooding her mouth. She hit the stairs hard. But she'd done it. She'd gotten between the gun and Valle. The world moved in strange fragments after that. Sound came in waves, loud, then muffled, then loud again. Gunshots. 2, 3, 4. Rapid succession. Bodies hitting the floor. Valle screaming. And Germano's voice raw and desperate. "Marissa." She tried to respond. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out but blood. The ceiling spun above her. Or maybe she was spinning. Hard to tell. Then Germano was there, his face hovering over hers. He'd moved so fast. 1 second across the room, the next beside her, his hands on her chest, pressing down hard. "Stay with me," he commanded. Not asked. Commanded. "You don't have permission to die. Do you hear me? You don't have permission." Marissa wanted to laugh. Wanted to tell him that death didn't ask permission. But breathing took all her energy. Valle appeared beside his father, his small face white with terror. "Is she dead? Papa, is she dead?" "No." Germano's voice was steel. "She's not dead. She's not going anywhere." He was pressing so hard on her chest. The pressure hurt almost as much as the bullet. Marissa tried to push his hands away. "Don't," Germano said, his face inches from hers. "Don't fight me. Let me help you." His hands were covered in blood. Her blood. She'd seen him as the dangerous one, the killer, the threat. But his hands were shaking as he tried to hold her together. "Ambulance is 3 minutes out," someone said. One of the guards. When had they arrived? "She doesn't have 3 minutes. Germano looked up. "Get the car. Now. We're taking her ourselves." Everything was blurring, darkening around the edges. Marissa's eyes found Valle. The little boy was crying, holding onto his father's arm with both hands. She'd saved him. Whatever happened next, she'd saved him. That had to be enough. "Marissa, look at me." Germano's face filled her vision again. "Stay awake. You have to stay awake." She tried. God, she tried. But the darkness was so heavy. The last thing she saw before her eyes closed was Germano's face, hard and fierce and terrified, and Valle's small hand reaching for hers. The last thing she heard was Germano's voice cracking. "Don't leave us. Please. Don't leave us. If you're still with us, trust me. The most dangerous part hasn't even happened yet." Hit that subscribe button, because what comes next will break your heart. The hospital waiting room had seen Germano Secchi before. 3 years ago, he'd sat in these same chairs, waiting for doctors to tell him what he already knew. That Sofia was gone, that no amount of money or power or connections could bring her back. He'd left that room a different man. Hollower. Colder. Now he was back, and history was repeating itself with cruel precision. "Mr. Secchi?" A surgeon approached, still in blood-stained scrubs. "Marissa's blood. Your wife is out of surgery." "She's not my wife," Germano said automatically. Then realized how wrong that sounded. How incomplete. "Not yet." The surgeon nodded, professional. "The bullet missed her heart by 2 centimeters. She's lucky." Lucky. Germano wanted to laugh. Marissa had thrown herself in front of a gun for his son. Luck had nothing to do with it. "Can I see her?" "She's in recovery. Still unconscious from the anesthesia." "But yes, you can see her." Germano stood. Valle had fallen asleep against his shoulder 2 hours ago, exhausted from crying. Germano carefully transferred him to Mrs. Chun, who'd arrived within 20 minutes of the shooting. "Watch him," Germano said quietly. "With my life, sir." The recovery room was sterile and cold. Machines beeped steadily. Tubes and wires connected Marissa to bags and monitors. She looked impossibly small in the hospital bed. Impossibly fragile. Germano pulled a chair close and sat. His hands were still stained with her blood. He'd refused to wash them, refused to leave her side long enough to clean up. He'd held her in the car, keeping pressure on the wound, feeling her heartbeat stutter and slow beneath his palms. He'd carried her into the emergency room, shouting for doctors, using his name like a weapon to get her immediate care. He'd paced the surgical waiting room for 4 hours, imagining every possible outcome, each worse than the last. And now she was here. Alive. Breathing. But still unconscious. Still so far away. Germano reached for her hand. It was cold and limp in his. He pressed it between both of his, trying to warm her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." The machines beeped their steady rhythm. "You weren't supposed to be there. You were supposed to spend time with Valle on Saturdays, then go home. Safe. Separate from the violence." He closed his eyes, and 3 years collapsed in an instant. Sofia's body on the driveway. Valle screaming in her arms, covered in his mother's blood, but miraculously unharmed. Germano holding them both, his wife already gone, his son traumatized beyond words. The way Sofia's eyes had been open, staring at nothing, her hand still reaching for Valle even in death. "I love you," she'd whispered with her last breath. Not to Germano. To their son. her final words spent on protecting their child. And Germano had knelt there, covered in her blood, and felt something inside him shatter so completely he didn't think it could ever be whole again. He opened his eyes. Marissa's face was pale against the pillow, but her chest rose and fell. Steady. Alive. I swore I'd never let this happen again, Germano continued. Swore I'd keep everyone at a distance. No attachments. No vulnerabilities. Just Valle and me against the world. His voice cracked. Then you showed up. This broke, stubborn waitress who refused to walk away from a crying child. Who saw my son's pain and ran toward it instead of away. He pressed her hand to his forehead. You weren't supposed to matter. You were supposed to be temporary. Just someone to help Valle heal. Nothing more. The tears came without permission. Germano Secchi, who hadn't cried in 3 years, felt them slide down his face and didn't try to stop them. But you mattered. God help me, you mattered so much. The way you laughed at Valle's jokes. The way you sang those terrible songs. The way you looked at me like I was a person, not a monster. He kissed her knuckles. I was falling in love with you. I tried not to. Tried to stop it. But every time I saw you with Valle, every time you smiled at me over his head, every time we sat together after he fell asleep, I fell a little further. The machines beeped. Marissa didn't stir. And now you're here because of me. Because my enemies wanted to hurt me, and you got in the way. Just like Sophia. His shoulders shook. I can't lose you. I know I have no right to ask you to stay. I know what I am, what I've done, the danger I bring. But I can't. His voice broke completely. I love you, Marissa. I love you, and I'm terrified, and I don't know what to do. Have you ever realized you loved someone at the worst possible moment? Share in the comments. Germano stayed there, head bowed, holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. He didn't hear the door open. Didn't hear the nurse enter, then quietly leave. Didn't notice when Valle appeared beside him, Mrs. Chen hovering anxiously in the doorway. Papa. Valle's small voice cut through the silence. Is Marissa going to die like Mama? Germano looked up at his son, saw his own terror reflected in those young eyes. He pulled Valle onto his lap, careful of the tubes and wires. No, he said fiercely. She's going to be okay. She's strong. She saved me. Valle's voice was tiny. The bad man was going to hurt me, but she got in the way. I know mio figlio. Like a mama would. Germano's chest tightened painfully. Valle leaned against his father's shoulder, watching Marissa's sleeping face. Can she be my mama? For real? I don't know, Germano whispered. We'll have to ask her. When? When she wakes up. When will that be? Soon, Germano promised. Then to himself a prayer. Please God. Soon. Marissa woke to the sound of breathing. Not her own, someone else's. Close. Rhythmic. Exhausted. Her eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Everything hurt. Her chest felt like someone had driven a truck over it, backed up, and done it again. But she was alive. That seemed important. She forced her eyes open. The room swam into focus slowly. White walls. Machines. Sunlight streaming through blinds. And Germano, slumped in a chair beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers, his head resting on the edge of her mattress. Asleep. He looked different asleep. Younger. The hard lines of his face softened into something almost peaceful. His hair was disheveled, his expensive sweater wrinkled and stained. With her blood, Marissa realized. Germano, she whispered. Her voice came out as barely a rasp. His eyes snapped open immediately. For a second, he stared at her like she was a ghost. Then he sat up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. You're awake. His voice was rough, raw. Jesus Christ, you're awake. How long? 2 days. You've been unconscious for 2 days. He reached for the call button. I need to get the doctor. Wait. Marissa squeezed his hand weakly. Valle. Is he okay? Germano stared at her. You were shot. Nearly died. And your first question is about my son. Is he okay? She insisted. Something cracked in Germano's expression. He's fine. Terrified, but physically fine. Thanks to you. Good. Marissa closed her eyes briefly. That's good. The doctor came and went. Checked vitals, asked questions, seemed pleased with her recovery. Marissa barely registered any of it. She kept watching Germano, who stood by the window, staring out at nothing. When they were alone again, she said, "You look terrible." He laughed, short and bitter. "You took a bullet, and you're worried about how I look. Have you slept?" "No. Eaten. I'm not hungry." "Germano, I thought you were going to die." He turned to face her, and Marissa's breath caught at the devastation in his eyes. "I held you in the car. Felt your heartbeat getting weaker. Watched your eyes close. And I thought I was losing you. But you didn't. Because you got lucky." His voice hardened. 2 centimeters, Marissa. The bullet missed your heart by 2 centimeters. If it had hit just slightly different, you'd be dead. But I'm not. You should be. Germano's control finally shattered. You should have run. Hidden. Protected yourself. Instead, you ran toward a man with a gun. For a child who isn't even yours. The words hung between them. Marissa met his gaze steadily. He felt like mine. Germano closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "And after I do, I'll understand if you never want to see me again." Marissa's chest tightened. "Okay." Germano pulled the chair close and sat. He didn't take her hand this time. Just clasped his own together, knuckles white. "I've killed 17 men," he began. "Personally. With my own hands. Not in self-defense. Not in the heat of battle. Calculated. Planned. Executed." His voice was flat, clinical. Like he was reading a grocery list. "I've ordered 43 other deaths. Rival family members, traitors, people who threatened my operations. I've laundered money, fixed trials, bribed officials. I've trafficked weapons and information. I've built an empire on violence and fear." He looked at her directly. "I am not a good man, Marissa. I've done things that would sicken you. Things I can't take back. Things I don't regret because they kept my family safe and my business intact." Marissa listened without interrupting. "Sophia, my wife, she knew what I was. She chose me anyway. And it got her killed." His voice cracked. "I was the target. She was just collateral damage. Valle lost his mother because of who I am." He leaned forward. "And now you've been shot because of who I am. My enemies came for Valle, and you got in the way. Just like Sophia." "That's not." "It is." Germano's eyes were fierce. "It is exactly the same. I bring death to everyone I love. I'm poison, Marissa. And you need to understand that before." "Before what?" He took a shaking breath. "Before I tell you that I'm in love with you." The machines beeped. Marissa's heart rate spiked on the monitor. "I love you," Germano continued, his voice breaking. "I tried not to. Tried to keep my distance. But watching you with Valle, seeing you laugh, hearing you sing those terrible songs, I fell so hard I couldn't stop myself." He stood abruptly, pacing. "And I can't. I won't lose another woman I love. I won't watch another person die because of me. So after you recover, I'll pay for the best rehabilitation. Set you up somewhere safe. Far from New York. You'll never have to work again. You'll be protected but separate from. Don't I get to choose?" Germano stopped mid-pace. "What?" Marissa pushed herself up slightly, wincing at the pain. "You've decided my entire future. What I'll do, where I'll go. But don't I get a say in any of this? Marissa, you almost died. And I'd do it again." Her voice was steady. Strong. "I'd take that bullet again, Germano. Without hesitation. Because that little boy matters. And you," she paused. "You matter." Germano stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "I'm not asking you to be something you're not," Marissa continued. "I know who you are. What you've done. The danger you represent. And I'm still here. You don't understand. I understand perfectly." She met his eyes. "You're terrified. You lost Sophia and nearly lost Valle. Now you nearly lost me. And your response is to push me away because that feels safer than risking more pain." Germano's jaw clenched. "But I'm not Sophia," Marissa said gently. "And I'm not running into danger blindly. I know what I'm choosing. And what are you choosing? You. Valle. This messy, dangerous, complicated life." She smiled slightly. "If you'll have me." Germano crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. He cupped her face in his hands, careful, gentle, like she might break, and kissed her. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and fierce and full of 3 weeks of unspoken feelings and 2 days of terror. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Germano pressed his forehead to hers. "You're insane," he whispered. "Probably. You should run. Far and fast." "I'm not going anywhere." He pulled back just enough to search her face. If you really stay, everything changes. You'd have to learn how to protect yourself. Security protocols. Self-defense. How to spot threats. Okay. You'd move into the brownstone. With me and Valle. No more separate lives. Okay. You'd meet people. Dangerous people. My associates, their families. You'd be introduced as mine. Under my protection. That makes you a target. I already am a target, Marissa pointed out. Someone shot me 2 days ago. Germano's expression darkened. They won't get another chance. So teach me. Train me. Show me how to exist in your world. He studied her for a long moment. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Germano kissed her again, softer this time, but no less intense. When he pulled back, something had shifted in his expression. The fear was still there, but buried beneath determination. Okay, he said. We do this your way. But we do it right. Marissa's recovery took 3 weeks. During that time, Germano transformed from terrified to tactical. He hired specialists, scheduled training sessions, prepared to introduce her properly to his world. Valle visited every day, climbing carefully onto her hospital bed to tell her about his day, show her drawings, ask when she was coming home. Soon, she always promised. Very soon, sweetheart. When Marissa was finally discharged, Germano didn't take her back to her tiny studio apartment. He took her home. The brownstone had been fortified since the attack. New security system, additional guards, reinforced doors and windows. It was a fortress now. But Valle's laughter still echoed through the halls. Marissa. He launched himself at her the moment she walked through the door. Germano caught him gently. Careful, mio figlio. She's still healing. But Marissa just laughed and opened her arms. Valle burrowed into them carefully, his small body warm and solid and alive. I missed you, he whispered. I missed you too, buddy. Mrs. Chun had prepared Marissa's room, a beautiful suite on the 3rd floor with views of the garden. It was 10 times the size of her old apartment. This is too much, Marissa said. Germano shook his head. This is the smallest bedroom in the house. Germano, your family now, he said simply. This is where you belong. The training started 2 days later. Hand-to-hand combat with a former Special Forces operative. Weapons training at a private range. Situational awareness with a security consultant. Emergency protocols, escape routes, communication systems. It was exhausting. Marissa's chest still ached from the gunshot wound. Her muscles screamed. But she pushed through because this was the price of staying. And she was staying. 6 weeks after the attack, Germano took her to Rossi's, an upscale restaurant where his associates gathered. They'll be watching, he warned in the car. Judging. Trying to figure out who you are and what you mean to me. What should I tell them? Germano took her hand. The truth. That you're mine. That anyone who touches you answers to me. The restaurant fell silent when they entered. Every head turned. Germano guided her to a large table in the back where 6 people sat. 3 couples, all impeccably dressed, all radiating quiet power. Everyone, Germano said, his hand firm on Marissa's lower back. This is Marissa Howell. She's under my protection. The implications hung in the air. Under his protection meant untouchable. It meant family. One of the women, elegant mid-40s with sharp eyes, studied Marissa for a long moment. Then she smiled. Any woman brave enough to take a bullet for Germano's son is brave enough to sit at this table. Welcome, Cara. The others nodded, raised their glasses. And just like that, Marissa was accepted. The Mafia wives, because that's what they were, though no one ever said it explicitly, took her under their wing over the following weeks. They taught her how to dress for certain events, which conversations to avoid, how to smile politely while gathering information. They welcomed her like royalty. Because in this world, being chosen by Germano Secchi meant something. It meant you were worth protecting, worth including, worth respecting. Would you be able to adapt to a completely different world for love? Tell us below. 3 months after the shooting, Marissa sat at the breakfast table with Valle, helping him with alphabet flashcards, when Germano walked in with a small box. He set it in front of her without ceremony. Marissa looked up, confused. "Open it," he said quietly. Inside was a key. "What's this for?" "The house. Your house now. Officially." Germano pulled out a chair and sat. "But there's something else I want to give you. Something I should have asked weeks ago." He reached into his pocket and pulled out another box. Smaller. Velvet. Marissa's breath caught. "I'm not good at pretty words," Germano said. "I'm not romantic. I've lived in darkness for so long I forgot what light looked like. But then you showed up, stubborn and brave and impossible, and suddenly I could see again." He opened the box. A diamond ring, simple, elegant, perfect, glinted in the morning sun. "Marry me, Marissa. Be Valley's mother. Be my wife. Choose this life completely." Valle looked up from his flashcards, eyes wide. "Are you going to be my mama?" Marissa looked at the little boy she'd nearly died for. At the man who'd finally learned to love again. At the life she'd built from bullets and chaos and impossible choices. "Yes," she whispered. "To all of it. Yes." Valle launched himself at Marissa with a squeal of joy that nearly knocked over the juice glasses. She caught him, laughing, as he wrapped his arms around her neck. "You're going to be my mama. For real." "For real," Marissa confirmed, her eyes stinging with tears. Germano slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably had her measured while she slept, the man who left nothing to chance. But when he kissed her, gentle and reverent, there was nothing calculated about it. Just love. Pure and terrifying and real. The wedding was small. Private. Just family, and the inner circle at the Brownstones' garden. Marissa wore a simple ivory dress. Valle stood beside Germano as best man, serious and proud in his tiny suit. Mrs. Chun cried through the entire ceremony. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Germano cupped Marissa's face like she was made of glass and kissed her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Mrs. Secchi," he murmured against her lips. "That's going to take some getting used to," she whispered back. Valle tugged on her dress. "Can I call you Mama now?" Marissa knelt down, careful of her dress. "You can call me whatever feels right, sweetheart." Valle thought about it seriously, then smiled. "Gracie. I like Gracie." It was a nickname he'd given her weeks ago, something between Grace and Marissa that felt uniquely theirs. "Gracie it is," she said, pulling him into a hug. But at night, when Valle was asleep and they were alone in the master bedroom, Germano called her something else. "Bella," he'd whisper, his lips against her neck. "My beautiful, impossible woman." And Marissa would smile in the darkness, wrapped in the arms of a man who'd killed for his family and would kill again without hesitation. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt safe. Life as Marissa Secchi was nothing like her old life. She woke in silk sheets instead of second-hand cotton, ate breakfast prepared by a private chef instead of cold cereal standing at the counter, wore clothes that cost more than her old monthly rent. But the wealth wasn't what changed her. It was the constant awareness. Every restaurant had exit routes she'd memorized. Every event included bodyguards positioned strategically around the room. Every stranger was assessed as potential threat or ally before conversation began. She learned to smile while scanning crowds, to make small talk while tracking movements, to laugh at jokes while noting who was watching and why. The training became second nature. Her body learned to react before her mind processed danger. She could field strip a handgun in under a minute, could identify surveillance in 3 seconds, could disappear into a crowd like smoke. Germano's world demanded it. But there were moments, stolen moments, when the darkness receded and they were just a family. Sunday morning pancakes, where Valle insisted on helping and made a disaster of the kitchen. Movie nights where they piled on the couch with popcorn and Valle fell asleep across both their laps. Bedtime stories where Marissa did all the voices and Valle giggled until he couldn't breathe. Those moments felt stolen from a darker world. Borrowed. Fragile. Marissa held them tight anyway. Valle called her Gracie now without hesitation. Would run to her after school, telling her about his day in rapid-fire sentences. Would crawl into her lap when nightmares came. Would ask her opinion on everything from superhero rankings to what color crayon to use. He was hers. Completely. Not by blood, but by choice, his and hers. And Germano. Germano watched her with Valle and looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "You're good at this," he said one night, standing in Valle's doorway as Marissa tucked him in. "At what?" "Being a mother. Being his mother." Marissa kissed Valle's forehead and turned off the light. In the hallway, she took Germano's hand. "He makes it easy." "No." Germano pulled her close. "You make it look easy. There's a difference." He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, until Marissa forgot they were standing in a hallway where anyone could see. "Come to bed, Bella," he murmured. "Let me show you how grateful I am." But even in those intimate moments, when Germano's hands were gentle and his voice soft, when they moved together in the darkness and whispered promises against each other's skin, Marissa was aware of the gun in the nightstand drawer, the panic room hidden behind the bookshelf, the guards patrolling the grounds, the darkness that surrounded their stolen light. She chose it anyway. Every single day, she chose it. 6 months after the wedding, Marissa sat in the garden watching Valle play. He was teaching the neighbor's cat to high-five, his laughter bright and pure. Germano appeared beside her, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "What are you thinking?" he asked, settling into the chair next to hers. "That I almost missed this," Marissa said. "If I hadn't walked over to that booth that night. If I'd listened to Giovanni and stayed away. You'd be safe," Germano said quietly. "I'd be alone." She took his hand. "Safe and alone and miserable in a studio apartment, working myself to death for rent money. Some people would choose that over this. I'm not some people." Germano raised her hand to his lips. "No, you're definitely not." Valle ran over, the cat forgotten. "Gracie, Papa, watch this." He proceeded to do a cartwheel that was more enthusiasm than technique. Both his feet went different directions, and he landed in a heap on the grass. But he jumped up laughing, arms spread wide. "Tata," Marissa applauded. "Beautiful baby. A perfect 10. Valle beamed and ran off to attempt another. "He's happy," Germano observed. "Really happy. I haven't seen him like this since before Sophia died. He's healing. Because of you." Marissa leaned her head on Germano's shoulder. "Because of us. All 3 of us." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Valle play in the fading sunlight. The guards were barely visible in the shadows. The security cameras tracked every movement. The house itself was a fortress. But in this moment, in this garden, they were just a family. Stolen from darkness. Built in shadows. But theirs. Wait, hadn't Germano already proposed? Yes. At the breakfast table. With Valle watching. It had been perfect in its own way, spontaneous and honest and real. But that night, after Valle was asleep and the house was quiet, Germano took Marissa's hand. "Come with me," he said. "There's something I need to do." "We're already engaged," Marissa pointed out, holding up her left hand where the ring caught the light. "I know, but I did it wrong." "It wasn't wrong. It was rushed. Practical. Like a business transaction." Germano's jaw tightened. "You deserve better than that." He led her through the house and up the stairs to the rooftop terrace. Marissa had only been up here once. The views of the city were stunning, but Germano rarely used the space. Tonight, though, it was transformed. String lights hung overhead, casting warm golden light. Candles flickered in hurricane glasses. Rose petals, actual rose petals, created a path to the balcony edge where the city spread out below them, a sea of lights and possibility. "Germano," Marissa's voice caught. "When did you do this?" "While you were putting Valle to bed. I had help." He smiled slightly. "Mrs. Chun is surprisingly romantic." He guided her to the balcony edge. The city hummed below, cars and sirens and life continuing on, oblivious to this moment. Germano took both her hands. "The first time I saw you," he began, "you were just a waitress. Someone bringing bread to tables. Someone I wouldn't have noticed in a million years." "Romantic start," Marissa teased gently. "Let me finish." But his eyes crinkled with amusement. "Then Valle started crying, and you walked over. Everyone told you not to. You did it anyway. And in 60 seconds, you did what no one else could do." His grip tightened slightly. "I hired you because Valle needed you. But somewhere along the way, I started needing you too. The way you hummed while cleaning up toys. The way you laughed at my terrible jokes. The way you looked at me like I was more than my worst decisions. The city lights reflected in his dark eyes. You took a bullet for my son. You chose this life knowing exactly what it meant. You became Valley's mother not because you had to, but because you wanted to. He released one of her hands to cup her face. This morning, I asked you to marry me in front of Valle because I wanted him to be part of it. That was important. But this, he gestured to the rooftop, the lights, the carefully planned romance. This is just for us. Then Germano Secchi, underground king, Mafia legend, man who'd built an empire on fear and violence, knelt on one knee. Marissa's breath caught. Marissa Grace Howell, he said, his voice rough with emotion. You are the bravest, most stubborn, most impossible woman I've ever met. You walked into my life and changed everything. You gave my son his smile back. You gave me my heart back. He pulled out a second ring box. Inside was a wedding band, simple, elegant, engraved with words in Italian. What does it say? Marissa whispered. Luz nel bio. Light in the darkness. Germano's eyes were bright. Because that's what you are. My light. Valley's light. Have you ever had someone change your entire world? Share your story in the comments. He took a shaking breath. So I'm asking you again, properly this time. Not at a breakfast table with orange juice and flashcards. But here, under the stars with the whole city watching. Marry me, Marissa. Be Valley's mother. Be my wife. Be my partner in this impossible, dangerous, beautiful life we're building. Tears streamed down Marissa's face. Choose me, Germano whispered. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Choose me. Marissa pulled him to his feet, cupped his face in her hands, looked into the eyes of this complicated, broken, fiercely loving man. I've been saying yes since the day I calmed your son, she said. I said yes when I walked toward danger instead of away. I said yes when I woke up in that hospital and chose to stay. I said yes this morning, and I'll say yes tomorrow and every day after that. She kissed him softly. So yes, Germano. Again and always. Yes. He slipped the wedding band onto her finger beside the engagement ring. Then he kissed her, deep and desperate and full of promises. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Germano rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he murmured. Probably not, Marissa agreed. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, a real laugh, rich and warm and full of joy. They stood on that rooftop for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, the city sparkling below them like fallen stars. Two broken people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances. A waitress and a mafia boss. A woman with nothing and a man with everything. Building a life in shadows. Choosing each other anyway. The new normal came in waves, some crashing and violent, others gentle as morning tide. Marissa learned to navigate both. The security became background noise. She stopped noticing the bodyguard who followed 3 steps behind during shopping trips. Stopped flinching when the bulletproof SUV pulled up instead of a regular car. The armed driver who opened her door became as familiar as Mrs. Chen's morning coffee. Business meetings happened in the study with the door closed. Men in expensive suits would arrive, exchange silent nods with Germano, and disappear into that room for hours. Marissa learned not to ask questions. Learned to read her husband's face when he emerged. Tension in his jaw meant complications. Ease in his shoulders meant resolution. She'd bring him whiskey without being asked. He'd pull her into his lap, bury his face in her neck, and just breathe. Bad day, she'd ask. Better now, he'd always reply. The wives, because Marissa thought of them that way now, her strange sisterhood, taught her the unspoken rules. Isabella showed her how to host dinner parties where every seating arrangement was strategic. Lucia explained which questions to deflect and which to answer. Rosa demonstrated the art of appearing uninvolved while actually listening to everything. We protect them by knowing when to speak and when to be silent, Rosa said over coffee one afternoon. But make no mistake, Cara, we are not powerless. We are their partners. Marissa understood. She saw it in how Germano consulted her before major decisions. How he asked her opinion on associates, on business opportunities, on threats. You see people clearly, he'd say, without the filter of fear or ambition. I trust your judgment. So when Antonio Ricci tried to move territory into Germano's district, Marissa was the one who noticed his wife's nervousness at a charity gala. She's scared. Marissa told Germano that night. Not of you. Of him. Of what he's planning. Germano listened. Investigated. Discovered Ricci was preparing to turn informant. The problem was resolved before it became a war. But the new normal wasn't just bulletproof glass and strategic dinner parties. It was Valley's 6th birthday party in the garden, with 20 children running wild and Germano on his hands and knees pretending to be a dinosaur, while Marissa coordinated the chaos with military precision. It was Sunday morning pancakes that inevitably ended in flower fights, with Valle giggling and Germano threatening to tickle them both into submission. It was bedtime stories where Valle would fall asleep between them, his small body warm and trusting, his breathing deep and peaceful. It was Marissa waking in the middle of the night to find Germano standing by Valle's bedroom door, just watching their son sleep. "He's safe," she'd whisper, coming to stand beside him. "I know." But Germano would watch for a few more minutes anyway. "I just need to see it." The darkness was always there, lurking at the edges, waiting for moments of inattention. But they built their light anyway. Valle started first grade. Marissa volunteered at the school. The headmaster's eyes had widened when she'd signed up, no doubt recognizing the Secchi name, but she didn't care. She wanted to be part of Valle's world. She helped with reading groups and art projects. She chaperoned field trips with 2 bodyguards disguised as parent volunteers. She baked cookies for bake sales and helped construct the class volcano for the science fair. The other mothers were wary at first. The Secchi reputation preceded her. But Marissa just smiled and offered to help set up chairs, and eventually they relaxed. She was just another mother, trying her best, loving her child. That Valle wasn't biologically hers never mattered. Not to her. Not to him. Not to anyone who saw them together. "Gracie, watch this," became her favorite phrase. Valle would do something, a cartwheel, a drawing, a new word he'd learned, and look at her with such pride and joy that Marissa's heart would overflow. "I see you, baby," she'd say every time. "I see you, and you're amazing." Business continued. Danger lurked. But love didn't flinch. When an associate was murdered, a grisly message left for Germano, Marissa held him through his rage. When a threat came too close to Valley's school, and they had to increase security, she was the one who explained it to their son in terms he could understand without nightmares. "Sometimes people make bad choices," she'd say, brushing his hair back. "But Papa and I will always keep you safe. Always. Promise?" Valle would ask. "Promise." And Germano would stand in the doorway, watching his wife calm their son's fears, and fall in love with her all over again. 1 year became 2. 2 became 3. The brownstone filled with laughter and life. Valle's artwork covered the refrigerator. His toys cluttered the living room. His voice echoed through halls that had been silent for too long. Marissa transformed from cautious outsider to fierce protector. She could spot a threat at 50 paces, could coordinate security with a single phone call, could smile at a rival's wife while mentally cataloging every word for later analysis. But she could also braid flowers into Valle's hair, could sing him to sleep when nightmares came, could make Germano laugh with terrible jokes over dinner. She was Mrs. Secchi, wife of New York's most feared Mafia boss. But she was also Gracie, the woman who'd walked toward danger for a crying child and never looked back. The new normal wasn't safe, wasn't simple, wasn't anything like the life she'd imagined in that tiny studio apartment. It was better. Valle was 6.5 when his baby sister arrived. Marissa had been terrified when she'd seen the positive pregnancy test. Terrified of bringing another child into this dangerous world. Terrified of dividing her attention from Valle. Terrified of everything going wrong. But Germano had held her face in his hands and said, "We'll protect them both. I swear it." And Valle had been so excited he'd literally jumped up and down for 5 minutes straight. "I'm going to be a big brother. I'm going to teach them everything. Can we name them after a dinosaur?" They did not name her after a dinosaur. Sophia Grace Secchi was born on a Tuesday morning in October. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Valle had insisted on being the first to hold her after her parents. "Hi, baby Sophia," he'd whispered, completely entranced. "I'm your big brother. I'm going to protect you forever." Marissa had cried. Germano had looked away, but not before she saw his eyes glisten. Now, 6 months later, Sophia was discovering her hands with the intensity of a scientist making a breakthrough. Valle lay on the nursery floor beside her playmat, showing her how to do baby cartwheels, which was really just him doing cartwheels while Sophia watched with wide, fascinated eyes. "See, Sophia, you put your hands down like this," Valle demonstrated, his feet kicking wildly. "And then you flip." He landed in a heap. Sophia squealed with delight. "Valle, baby, she can't do cartwheels yet," Marissa said from the doorway. "She can barely roll over. I'm teaching her for when she's bigger." Valle sat up, completely serious. Big brothers teach stuff. That's the job. Germano appeared behind Marissa, wrapping his arms around her waist. He's not wrong. He's going to hurt himself. Probably. But Germano was smiling. Just like I did when I tried to teach my little sister to climb trees. Marissa leaned back against him, watching their children. Valle had moved on to making funny faces at Sophia, who rewarded him with more delighted squeals. "We made this," she said softly. "This family. This life." "You made this," Germano corrected. "I was just a broken man with a traumatized son. You turned us into a family. We did it together." Valle looked up. "Gracie, can Sophia have my old stuffed lion? I want her to have something that's special." Marissa's throat tightened. The stuffed lion had been Valle's comfort object for years. The one toy he'd carried everywhere. The one that had absorbed countless tears. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Valle nodded solemnly. "She's my sister. She gets my best stuff." He carefully placed the worn lion next to Sophia's head. The baby immediately grabbed its ear and tried to eat it. "Good job, Sophia," Valle praised. "That's exactly what I used to do." What's the best thing about watching siblings love each other? Drop your thoughts below. That evening, after both children were asleep, Marissa and Germano sat on the rooftop terrace where he'd proposed. It had become their place, where they went when they needed to remember who they were outside of the chaos. "Valle called me Mama today," Marissa said suddenly. Germano turned to her, eyes wide. "What?" "Not to my face." He was talking to Sophia. He said, "That's Mama. She's the best. You're gonna love her." Marissa's voice cracked. I was in the hallway. He didn't know I was listening. "Bella." He still calls me Gracie most of the time. And I never pushed. Never asked. I wanted him to decide when he was ready. She wiped her eyes. But hearing him call me that? To his sister? Like it was just natural. Germano pulled her close. "You've been his mother since the moment you walked over to that booth. He's known it for years. Now he's just ready to say it." "I don't want to replace Sophia," Marissa whispered. "You're not replacing her. You're healing him." Germano kissed her temple. "There's a difference." They sat in comfortable silence, the city sprawling below them. 3 years ago, Marissa had been a broke waitress working 2 jobs. Now she was here, on a rooftop terrace in the Upper East Side, married to a Mafia boss, mother to 2 children she'd died to protect. "Do you ever regret it?" Germano asked quietly. "This life, the danger, the compromises." Marissa thought about it honestly. The fear, the violence lurking at the edges, the constant awareness, the weight of knowing what her husband did to keep them safe. Then she thought about Valle's laugh, Sophia's tiny fingers gripping hers, Germano's arms around her in the darkness. "Never," she said. "Not even once. Even knowing what I've done, what I'll do again if necessary." She turned to face him. "You think I don't know who you are? I've known from the beginning, Germano. The difference is, I also know who you are with Valle, who you are with Sophia, who you are with me." She cupped his face. "You're not just one thing. None of us are. And I chose all of you, the darkness and the light, the monster and the man. I chose this family. Our family." Germano kissed her deeply. When they broke apart, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "I love you, Mrs. Secchi." "I love you too, Mr. Secchi." From the baby monitor on the table, Sophia's soft breathing mixed with Valle's sleepy murmur. "Love you, little sister. Big brother's got you." Marissa smiled. Our family, Germano agreed. And in that moment, on that rooftop, with their children safe inside and the city glittering below, everything was exactly as it should be. Stolen from darkness, built in shadows, but entirely, completely, perfectly theirs. Germano Secchi still walked in 2 worlds. Marissa watched him navigate them with the precision of a tightrope walker. Never stumbling, never hesitating, always knowing exactly which version of himself was needed in any given moment. In the study with the door closed, he was the underground king. Cold, calculating, decisive. His voice would drop to that lethal softness that made grown men nervous. His eyes would go flat and dark. His hands, those same hands that gently braided Sophia's hair, would sign documents that ended careers, territories, sometimes lives. Marissa heard him once, through the study door she'd accidentally left cracked. I don't care about his excuses. Germano's voice was ice. He stole from me. He endangered my operations. So you have two choices. Handle it yourself by midnight, or I handle it my way. And trust me, Antonio, you don't want me to handle it my way. A pause. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. The call ended. Silence. Then footsteps approaching the door. Marissa had turned away, busying herself with Sophia's bottles in the kitchen, but Germano had found her anyway. You heard, he said. Not a question. I wasn't eavesdropping. The door was. I know. He came up behind her, resting his hands on her waist. Does it frighten you? Hearing that side of me. Marissa set down the bottle she'd been washing and turned to face him. Sometimes. Not of you, but of what you have to do. What you carry. His jaw tightened. If you want to leave, stop. She pressed her fingers to his lips. I'm not leaving. I'm just being honest. You asked, so I'm telling you. Sometimes it frightens me. Sometimes I lie awake wondering how you balance it all. How you can be that man, she gestured toward the study, and then come upstairs and read Goodnight Moon to our daughter. I'm two different people. No. Marissa shook her head. You're one person doing what he has to do to protect what matters. There's a difference. Germano pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. You've said that before. I still don't believe you. But she understood now, 3 years in, what it cost him. The weight he carried. The decisions that kept him awake at night, even when he pretended to sleep. The nightmares where he woke reaching for his gun, then for her, making sure she was real and safe and still breathing. She saw both sides now. The monster and the miracle. The man who'd ordered 3 executions in a single week after someone tried to move drugs through a neighborhood school. The same man who'd spent an entire afternoon teaching Valle to ride a bike, running beside him, catching him every time he fell, never once showing frustration. The man who'd walked into a rival's restaurant with 5 armed men and walked out owning the entire operation. The same man who'd rocked Sofia through colic for 6 hours straight, singing Italian lullabies in his rough voice until she finally slept. Valle understood it too, in his own way. One night, Marissa found him standing outside Germano's study, listening to a particularly intense phone call. She'd started to redirect him, but Valle had looked up at her with those old, wise eyes. Papa's protecting us, he'd said simply. He does scary things, so we don't have to be scared. How do you know that? Valle had shrugged. Because he promised. The night Mama died, he promised to keep me safe always. Papa keeps his promises. And he did. Every single one. When Sofia had gotten sick with a fever that wouldn't break, Germano had called in the best pediatrician in New York at 3 in the morning. Had stayed up with Marissa, taking shifts, neither of them sleeping until Sofia's temperature dropped. When Valle had been bullied at school, Germano had handled it quietly. No threats. No violence. Just a conversation with the bully's father, who happened to owe Germano a significant favor. The bullying stopped immediately. When Marissa's old landlord had tried to sue her for breaking her lease years ago, Germano had made it disappear with a single phone call. You don't have to do that, Marissa had said. Yes, I do. You're mine to protect. That's the promise I made. Every morning, he kissed her goodbye, once soft, once lingering, before heading into whatever darkness the day required. Every evening, he came home, shed the monster at the door, and became just Papa and husband again. He played tea party with Sofia. He helped Valle with homework. He pulled Marissa into his arms and danced with her in the kitchen while dinner cooked. The duality should have been impossible. But Marissa had learned that people contained multitudes. That someone could be both hard and soft, dangerous and gentle, darkness and light. Germano was all of those things. But for her? For Valle and Sofia? He was just the man who kept his promises. The man who'd knelt beside a crying boy in a restaurant and let a stranger try to help. The man who'd fallen in love with a broke waitress and given her a family. The man who'd promised to protect them all, no matter the cost. And he'd kept that promise. Every day. Without fail. Marissa stood in Valley's bedroom doorway, watching Germano read to both children. Sophia sat on his lap, chewing on her stuffed lion. Valle leaned against his father's side, following along with the story. And the little prince said, Germano read in his accented English, "You become responsible forever for what you've tamed." Valle looked up. "What does that mean, Papa?" "It means," Germano said carefully, "when you love someone, you promise to take care of them. Always. No matter what. Like how you take care of us? Exactly like that. And how Gracie takes care of us." "Yes." Valle thought about it. "So we're all responsible for each other?" "We are." "Good." Valle settled back against his father. "I like that." Marissa's throat tightened. She backed away quietly, letting them finish the story, and went downstairs to the kitchen. Mrs. Chen had left everything prepared for tomorrow's breakfast. The house was clean. The security system was armed. Everything was as it should be. Marissa poured herself tea and stood at the window, looking out at the garden where Valle had played that first day, where she'd watched him laugh for the first time in who knew how long, where she'd started falling in love with this impossible life. Sometimes she thought about that night at Vittorio's, the crying child, the decision to walk over despite every warning, the moment that had changed everything. She could have walked away, should have walked away, but she'd seen something in that little boy's eyes, a grief she recognized, a need she understood, and she'd made a choice that defied logic and safety and common sense. She'd walked toward danger instead of away from it, and it had become her whole world. Love doesn't always arrive the way stories promise. It doesn't always knock politely, wait for permission, come wrapped in safety and certainty. Sometimes love crashes in unexpectedly, dressed in an expensive suit, hiding grief behind cold eyes, carrying a child who just needs to be held. Sometimes love looks like danger, like complications, like a life you never planned and probably shouldn't choose. But if you're brave enough to walk toward it anyway, if you're willing to see past the warnings and the fear and the thousand reasons to run, if you can recognize pain in someone else's eyes because you've carried your own, then maybe, just maybe, that impossible love becomes the most real thing you've ever known. What's the bravest choice you've ever made for love? We'd love to hear your story in the comments. Marissa heard footsteps behind her. Germano's arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "The kids are asleep," he murmured against her neck. "Valle made me read 2 extra chapters. He always does." And Sophia tried to eat the book. She tries to eat everything. They stood in comfortable silence, swaying slightly to music only they could hear. "What are you thinking about?" Germano asked. That night, at the restaurant, how one decision changed everything. Regrets? Never. Marissa turned in his arms. Not even for a second. Germano cupped her face. "You saved us, you know. Valle and me. We were drowning, and you pulled us out. We saved each other. Maybe." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "But you walked toward us first. That took courage I'll never stop being grateful for." He kissed her softly. "Thank you, Bella. For being brave. For staying. For loving us. Always," Marissa whispered. "For all of it. Always." Upstairs, Valle called out in his sleep, not a nightmare, just a murmur. Sophia made soft baby sounds through the monitor. The house settled around them, safe and warm and full of the life they'd built together. From darkness and danger. From bullets and broken hearts. From a moment of courage in a restaurant when a waitress decided that a crying child mattered more than her own safety. Love doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it crashes in, messy and complicated and impossible. And if you're brave enough to walk toward it, to choose it despite every logical reason not to, it might just become your whole world.
Thanks so much for watching till the end. If this story moved you, you're going to love what's coming next. It's even more surprising and emotional than this one. Go ahead and click the story on your screen right now, and see you in the next story.